Hi, everyone. Welcome to another ICBA Daily News Update for today, Friday, October 20th, 2023. I'm Jordan Bateman, Vice President Communications for the Independent Contractors and Businesses Association. All right, I'm going to give you the heads up today on some more Impact Assessment Act fallout, the non-existent Lytton, BC rebuild, and inflation becoming entrenched in the Canadian economy. For links to all the sources, please visit icbaindependent.ca. That's www.icbaindependent.ca. Because, of course, we can't post media links here because of the Trudeau government's foolish online news act. All right, first story. Our friends at the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers, CAPP, they're digging into the aftermath of our historic Supreme Court of Canada victory over the federal government's flawed Impact Assessment Act, and they're hopeful it will lead to faster approvals for responsible resource development projects. CAPP CEO Lisa Baton told a panel this week in Calgary that federal policies such as the promised emissions cap for the oil and gas sector and the proposed clean electricity regulations is a quote-unquote pancaking of regulation that has scared away investment and ultimately harmed the industry. That's exactly what it is. Pancaking as in it's a layering effect, all these little pieces of red tape adding up to scare away investment. We're hopeful, though, that the repeal or the substantial changes to the Impact Assessment Act will help lift some of that red tape and hopefully attract more responsible resource development to Alberta and British Columbia and the rest of Canada. Story 2. Well, 840 days ago, the town of Lytton, British Columbia burned to the ground in a catastrophic fire. 835 days ago, then Premier John Horgan promised the residents of Lytton that the provincial government would help them rebuild quickly. It was going to be a town of tomorrow. Well, now, 27 months later, the town of tomorrow doesn't have a single home or a single business that has been allowed to rebuild, as the NDP government and good old-fashioned bureaucracy drags its heels, overlays pieces of red tape regulation, archaeological assessments, all sorts of things on top of these people who have lost everything. So this week, 27 months after the fire, displaced residents held a protest, and BC United MLAs in the legislature demanded that the Auditor General review the slow response. Something has to be done. We got to shake this loose somehow. The NDP tried to stop that review in committee, and in fact voted it down. But Vaughn Palmer in the Vancouver Sun reports today that the attorney or the Auditor General will weigh in anyways. That's the beauty of having an independent AG. Government should learn, if you're trying desperately to stop the AG from looking at something, that's usually a signal to the AG to look right at it. So hopefully they can give the NDP a kick in the pants and get these poor people in Lytton back into their community. All right, final story. This is actually a bit of an analysis from Philip Cross of the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, who says inflation is becoming entrenched in Canada at a rate higher than 2% a year, and government is only adding to that cost with poor management. He quotes an author named John Horgan, quote, "If you ask the grocer why the price of bread is higher, the grocer will blame the wholesaler. The wholesaler will blame the baker, who will blame the wheat seller, who will blame the farmer, who will blame the seed supplier and workers' demands for higher wages, and the workers will blame the grocer for the price of food." It's a tough loop to break, in other words. So Cross points out that, quote, "The best solution would have been to contain inflation before it took off in 2021, but persistent government deficits and the Bank of Canada's lethargic response to higher prices squandered that opportunity." It's always depressing when the best piece of advice in a op-ed like this is to essentially build a hot tub time machine, go back in time and try to convince government to act more responsibly. Can't do that. All we can do is move forward. So, the elected officials, finance ministry officials in, every provincial capital and in Ottawa, they've got to figure out ways to break this cycle. All right, well, that's it for this week at ICBA. Again, by the way, Site News has an interesting piece on artificial intelligence, how it's affecting the construction industry. That's one of the topics we're going to be exploring at our Construction Innovation Summit, October 31st. We have like a handful of tickets left. We've reconfigured the room to squeeze in a few more people. You can get those at icba.ca/CIS, but act fast because they're going quickly. That's October 30th, 31st in Vancouver. Otherwise, thanks for watching this week. Hope you have a good one. If you have any stories that we should add for next week's AM Newses, just email them, jordan@icba.ca. Otherwise, I'll see you on Monday.